Trump has imposed tariffs, and this is hurting the markets insanely. So people are thinking a recession is incoming, bear market's on its way. We're going to cover this because is it actually going to be a bear market or is it going to be okay? We're also going to go into other crypto news, which is relevant to help you make money during this bull market phase, which is very, very boring. Let's get into it. So the first thing is, yes, the tariffs came out on Liberation Day, 2 days ago. Trump says the market will boom despite sell-off. We can have a listen to it. Put my microphone there so you can hear it.
Seen anything like it. The markets are going to boom, the stock is going to boom, the country is going to boom, and the rest of the world wants to see, is there any way they can make a deal?
So that's what he says. We just have to wait and see if that is the case. We're going to go through the pros and cons of how this could help the markets potentially. First, though, these are some of the reciprocal tariffs. So there's some countries that are getting sizable amounts, like the European Union, 20%. I live in the European Union, and every time something's imported into this country, it is insanely hard. Like, I will not get any merch or buy anything from outside of the EU because it's just not worth it. You get these crazy duties, and you get this like €50 administration fee. It's so unfriendly, and I have no idea. Like, obviously, this is on a consumer level, not on a business level. We can see what we're looking here. Some of them are very, very high, over 40%. The actual whole list looks like this. Before we show you it fully, though, it's important to note that these aren't based on actual foreign tariffs, but likely on the US trade deficit divided by imports and a few other factors. So they're saying the tariffs charged to the USA is 67%, which would make you think that every time something's been imported into China, they're charging you 67% of its purchase price as a tariff that goes to the Chinese government. That is not the case. So they have gone and levied some massively high amounts on everyone, which is kind of crazy. Of course it is. And there are some countries out there just sitting with like a 10%, which is probably going to be an easier thing to swallow for sure. One important thing is I'm not here to say this was a right decision or a wrong decision. I think this was far too much of a brutal decision. I'm not a politician, and I'm not trying to look after the US citizens. I can see why it's been done. But one important thing to keep in mind is that there has been many times where they've said there must be reciprocal tariffs. It's just this is a time when it's actually being put into play. Now, when it comes to the 18.6 year cycle, I follow Phil Anderson. And he says that tariffs don't work, they never work, etc. He's got this listed here if you want to check it out. One unfortunate thing with Phil is if I put a message down, he's never going to reply. He doesn't engage, so we can't get a discussion. And I'm not sure if he's like more bipartisan, if it doesn't matter, if he's not really left or right. Either way, it says, now you'll see it in real time as Republicans proceed on perhaps the most profoundly stupid idea of all time. Watch, weep, and prepare for world depression yet again after 14 years of rising land prices. The crazy thing here is this is 14 years, right? And we normally have an 18.6 year cycle. So we're still expecting the top to come next year or a little bit later. And I'm not sure if he's now saying, okay, if this is fully in, then our top is in. But we are still actually at all-time highs in housing markets. So I wish we had more information from him. What we've basically witnessed, people refer back to the Great Depression. And the Great Depression, this is also covered in the 18.6 year cycle, but this was when land prices did reach that all-time high. And then they added tariffs. So if you can have a look at it yourself, but basically times are a little bit different. I still feel that we're still okay. We're still okay for another year or so. And I think what's probably going to happen, and I hope this is going to happen, is we're going to have a situation where Trump and the administration, they're going to create all this difficulty, and then they're going to resolve a lot of it by having, trade deficits kind of reduced. Ultimately, the goal of any government is to protect their own citizens. That's all it is. That's what the government is. It's just to protect your own citizens. Polymarket says there's a 52% chance, which is up 33% of a US recession in 2025, which would have been such a fantastic thing to have actually just jumped into, because you could see that with the tariffs coming, these would have jumped up, and I didn't even know that this market existed. So the cool thing here is you can buy it here, and then it pumps up here, and you can just sell it. I guess if you bought it yesterday, it didn't jump up as much. But as soon as you were fully aware that Liberation Day was coming, you could keep in mind. Recession means like a decline in 2 quarters in terms of GDP and a couple of other metrics. And like it's not a full-on 2008 financial crisis. You can have small recessions. Hopefully we don't though. The US stock market records its worst day in 4 years. A whole lot of red. Google losing, Meta, everyone's losing something, of course. These are just paper gains. And the fear and greed is insanely low. 7, 8. Really, really nutty. It hasn't been down there like in years. So this is very, very brutal. Of course, if you're in the stock market, you're far better to buy the dip, DCA into the dip at these levels, because you do want to buy fair and sell greed. Now, the cryptocurrency scene, we're looking fine over here. Like it's still a bit brutal. Sol's struggling a little bit. I think we're going to be okay. It could be significantly worse. Like, so he's doing okay, but like you can go have a look at Matic, Polygon, Pol. That token's not doing well. There's a lot of tokens that just aren't getting any traction. Cardano does okay because of its army, but it's not actually doing really, really well. But it's certainly a harder cycle than it was previously. And our fair and greed's just at 28, so it's not too low. Coming back quickly to the 18-year property cycle, I do believe this is something very worthwhile to read. And the cycle peak is around next year. It's like you can't call it exactly. It could be a little bit early, but I do think it's around next year. We'll have to wait and see what Phil Anderson, who's basically the authority on the subject, says right now. But we can't make a comment on it this early. Obviously, if we do go into a major recession, I think Trump's administration will cave on that, to be perfectly honest. Let's move on to having a look at funding and an Intel report by Ranger Finance. Ranger Finance, by the way, as soon as they have like take profits and stop losses available, then I'll be using this so much, and I encourage you to do so. It's a very cool tool, but they do need stop losses and take profits. So a massive amount of liquidations, 154 million has been liquidated on-chain, 60% of those being Sol long positions. And basically, this shows 1 week option skews, which is quite technical. It remains in a heavy put premium across the majors. This shows traders prefer puts over calls, suggesting they're either hedging or betting on price drops. You can have a look at it yourself and join the Ranger Finance, but it does help to know what's actually happening on-chain with puts and calls and people just minimizing the risk. We can't see a whole lot of data here. We can see there's one massive drift position, which can be liquidated pretty easily. So I would expect us to drop down a little bit lower, but then there's nothing really that's going to be liquidated either side when it comes to the Sol liquidation map. And if we change it to like BTC, I don't think it's really going to matter too much because there's not as much BTC volume on chain as it is off chain. What we can do, of course, is we can look at CoinGlass, and we can see with Bitcoin across exchanges, there's a lot more clusters here. So they could push the price down and wipe out a significant amount of gains from traders. They can push the price up a little bit further, and they can take out some shorters. This cluster, I guess, is maybe a little bit easier to push, but they can push it up and bring it back down. So it's not the smartest time to be in the market right now with any kind of leverage, in my opinion. And we can have a look at Sol as well to see what's happening over there. This shows us a little bit of a different picture where it's more likely that it comes up a little bit further to here, but then there's still like a size. This is a sizable cluster, and this is a small cluster. So not much here, like just probably not the time to go leverage, to be honest. One thing to keep in mind is Bitcoin is putting in a higher low. So low low and a higher low, compared to the stock market, the S&P 500, a low low and another low low. So crypto is doing better. And then if we have a look at this, this is what we don't want to see. We don't want to see USDT market dominance increasing, and we have seen it increase. So this is from last month, and we've come up by hundreds of millions, billions, as more people are stabling up. We want to see this come on down, and that's when we know that it's rotating into our volatile assets. Bitcoin on the 2 hour with Katoshi settings has got a little bit of a greenery spike here, very small green, but it's a scary time. It needs to break above this for it to start to be back on. And with the traditional markets not doing well, I think we need a little bit of time to see which countries are going to cave, which countries are going to start to make deals. And this is what I do think will happen. Countries will say, okay, you've got a trade deficit, fine. Because the US could support itself without other countries to a very large degree. It just means that they're not going to have some fruits or veggies or things like that. They'd be able to get things pretty well, to be perfectly honest. It's a massive country. They would do well, and they'd be able to get stuff from Canada and Mexico and work out disagreements with them. In general, though, like just to be clear, it has gone green. I missed it for 2 hours though, but it has actually gone green. I'm not going to jump into it yet though. We can always check it on the 1-day chart, and then this will show us if we've got any kind of trend or reversal. And we last ended a bit of green in February, and then it's just been down since. And it still looks like it's having some difficulty. So this in general doesn't look like the time to be longing something, even though it just touched green. Solana has been red, and I'm really hoping we're close to the bottom, and I think we are. There will be people that will say it's going to go down to 60, of course, or lower. You need to protect yourself in case that ever happens. But there's so much stuff that's shipping with Solana. There's so many cool things. People were coming to Solana from other networks like Base. I'm not seeing that's necessarily going to happen, but whales do manipulate the markets. And Binance and people like that, CZ, they can throw around insane weight. Wintermute can do insane weight. But on the 1-day chart, you can see it's just been not fun for quite some time, and it's not a time to enter long, in my opinion. The SEC does acknowledge filing Fidelity's spot Solana Sol ETF, so this is good. In other news, First Digital USD depegged to 94 cents, and Messari reports that Justin Sun said that they were misappropriating 500 million, and they claim they're insolvent. And then it depegged to actually 89 cents before recovering. They denied the allegations, and they plan to pursue legal action against Sun. Wintermute transferred 75 million FDUSD to First Digital Labs, likely profiting from discounted prices. And Binance has released an attestation report. So this is interesting because Binance is very much aligned with FDUSD, as far as I'm aware. And CZ and Justin Sun are friends. CZ is more powerful than Justin Sun, and Justin Sun is just like the biggest grifter of the space. Next bit of news. Announcing the Solana Breakout Hackathon, powered by Coliseum. This is very, very cool. This starts April 14, and it goes to May 16. So please get amongst this, form a team, build some cool stuff. Coliseum gives you a lot of mentorship. It's worth it. PayPal's also added Solana to its cryptocurrency offerings for over 200 million US users. And the Mountain sale is now live on Mountain DAO project. I'm very, very bullish on Mountain. Basically, I see it as you put your money in, it goes into a DAO, a proper DAO. And I have a lot of respect to Jupiter with what they've been trying to do. It hasn't been working. We can see this, and I haven't been too vocal on it because they're trying so hard. But the market started to sell. It started to sell and sell hard. And now I believe Jupe's at its all-time low, despite having so much revenue. There are competitors coming out, Titan Exchange, CommuniSwap as well. So this could be a bit of a factor, but I think it's more the fact that there's just too much transparency. Now, with Mountain DAO, the only way to get in, there's no airdrop. The only way to get in is to buy it. So you have to want the token. And then the token goes to, it's actually linked to Mountain DAO, but it's called Mountain Capital. And they use that funds to have votes to invest in early stage projects that they see and meet the founders for about 1 month, twice a year, every time there's a Mountain DAO. It's not a hackathon, but it's just a get together happening. So this is the best deal flow. So I think this is one of those things where you put your money in, and this is not financial advice. I think it should be raising well over 10 million. It should, that's what it's worth. And then they just support the builders, they get a token allocation, and this is one of those things that just outperforms cycle after cycle. It goes up and down as you'd expect, but that's how I'm expecting it to happen. Thus far, they've raised almost 500,000, and I have put in money, just to be clear. There's no marketing budget, there's no KOL budget. Everything is just done via Futagi. So even the founders will not get paid unless they or someone else puts forward a proposal saying, hey, look, we're going to do this stuff. We'd like to request a budget of this. If it only ends up getting, 5 million, then They can put in their proposal. It can be rejected. It's not going to have an insane amount of salary, I would think. But I think as success starts to come and they grow their portfolio, and they could even maybe buy some tokens, and then someone could say, all right, this is looking really good. Can you OTC sell those tokens to some other interested party? Because maybe they invest in the next MarginFi or the next Drift or the next Tube. It's cool. Also, Camino Metaswap has come out, swap.camino.finance. This looks really cool. They have weekly rewards. I can create a referral link. I'm not going to worry about it right now. Just let people just go have some fun. Create your own referral link if you like. You can use this. You can use Dupe, of course. Just pointing out there's new tech out there, which is really, really cool. And they're doing well in terms of volume. And they do have 25,000 will be given to the top CaminoSwap users and referrers every single week. So this is kind of cool. But I think it'd be also cool if there was an aspect that was just a random number generator. So if you used it and you only swapped like 2,000, you could still get the chance to win $100. That would kind of be cool as well. But it doesn't look like they've got that. The next thing I want to show you is dupesync.link. Just put that in and that will automatically forward to the calendar for Jupiter. Then you've got the normal calendar like this, but you can actually now add it to Google and to Apple as well. And this way you can just see everything that's going on with whatever's happening in the Jupiterverse. You can change it by month or day, and you can just see everything, so that if there's stuff you want to get involved with, you won't miss anything. And if you think you're going to miss a vote, you won't miss it, and you can subscribe to the calendar. It is very good, and it means that you're not going to miss a vote. And you don't have to worry about emails being pinged your way or anything like that. Next bit of news, Dupe has gone and acquired Drip House. So Vibe and the team are now part of the Jupiter community, and they're working with, I guess, making it better. And Jupiter has new verified tokens that are changing: blue chip, community assisted, and social ID verification. I have to wait and see how it actually looks out, but there's going to be a new system: blue chip USD, Jupe, Sol, WIF, community assisted, and social ID verification. Just going to have to see how this goes, and I'll cover it in more detail. DeFi Dungeons. I'm really enjoying this game. I have another video or a couple of videos out on this within a very short amount of time. I'm currently playing it right now. So with DeFi Dungeons, I think 3 NFTs is worthwhile. Anything less, it's not as fun, but you can still play with 1 and start to build up. The floor price is holding really, really well. People that wanted to go down to 2 Sol, not happening. And there's a new game coming across to Solana soon. It's called Infected. It was on base, and too much demand. It just spiked transaction fees. And they had like 50,000 people playing it, I believe, when it actually played over there. I don't know how much it costs to play the game, really. But you can see there is like a winning pot, which I think is pretty cool. And I don't know how it's played, but I'll cover it when it actually moves across to Solana. That's everything for this bi-weekly update. I'll be back again with more DeFi Dungeons news. Make sure you subscribe and check out these 2 videos over here for other stuff that relates to crypto.